live my life in a wheelchair. And all I could think about during this process was, holy crap, I need to walk again. There's no way I'm gonna live this life. And for the next 3 years, I spent a lot of time doing research. I traveled around the world to try out different therapies, treatments, remedies, and exercises to help heal me. I went to Canada, Germany, the Philippines, and India to do all sorts of things. But nothing worked, not even a little bit. I felt defeated. I didn't know what I was gonna do next. And I came back home and thought, if this is how I'm gonna live my life, how do I wanna live it? Now the first thing I wanted to do was get out of my parents' house. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my parents and all, but I don't wanna see them every day. And I really wanted to be independent again, like I was as an able-bodied. I want to go back to Houston, because I felt like they'd have more activities for like wheelchair sports and things like that I could get into. But how was I going to go back to Houston? I needed a bigger reason since I was going to use my parents' money to get there. I couldn't just go there. I had to give them a convincing reason to why they would let me go. And one of my friends called me one day and told me about an accounting program that he was enrolling in to be a CPA at the University of Houston. Now, I don't really like school, but this was my ticket out, so I convinced my parents. And this made sense because I wouldn't have to go to school for that long. It was just 9 classes that I had to take to complete it. So it made sense to me. I talked to my parents, they agreed, I went back to school. I lived these new on-campus apartments called the Calhoun Lofts. And I felt pretty awesome that I was now living independently without help. Now, the next step was to get involved in wheelchair sports. And during the first week of moving to Houston, I was driving and I saw a billboard as I passed by the highway. And it said Abilities Expo, and it had a bunch of people in wheelchairs in it. And I was like, whoa, I gotta find out what that's about. So it turns out that this big expo was happening for the first time in Houston the weekend after I moved there. And it was like everything disability, everything wheelchair, everything, I mean, it was in the Reliance Center, it was huge. Coincidence? I think not. I went to the expo and they had a display going on for wheelchair tennis. I really want to get involved in wheelchair basketball mainly, and I spoke to people and they told me that there's a center that everybody plays wheelchair basketball and tennis and swimming and a bunch of other stuff, so there was my answer. I didn't go out looking for it, it came to me. And I've been going to the center ever since. Next thing I want to do is get a job. Living in these apartments on campus, I would think it would be really cool if I could get a job here because I already live here. So it'd be, awesomely convenient. And eventually, I got an email from the apartments saying that they had a few job openings to be a leasing consultant. And the person who sent out the email was the director of the apartment complex who I'd already made friends with. So I called her right away. I was like, yo, I gotta get this job. And she's like, you got it. So the job entailed that I was supposed to pretty much give people tours around this apartment building. Now, can you imagine a dude in a wheelchair giving you a tour around this building? I was opening doors for people everywhere I went. And I always had people like looking at me confused, like, you're gonna give me a tour? And I was like, yep. Keep up, because I'm about to be hell on wheels. Stuff like this kept happening. I wanted to do something, and some kind of coincidence would happen outside of my control that led me to exactly what I wanted. And I took action and I got it. And I think that's what life is about. You really need to get in touch with yourself and what you want, and hold that intention and see what happens. But it's also about making your intention as pure as possible. It's about really being aware and identifying your thoughts and your thought patterns and eliminating and changing whatever negative thoughts you might have about yourself, because your thoughts really do create your reality. If you think that you have bad luck or things will never work out for you, they never will. You have to do the work and eliminate these things from your mind if you want to get to where you want to go. And it's a process. Probably a lifelong process for most. Because the thing is, we have to realize that we are always programming ourselves based on how we're reacting to the people and the events happening around us. That's what our emotions are, subconscious reactions to the events happening around us. And our subconscious is 90% of the makeup of our consciousness. Our conscious part is only 10%. So when you think about this, most of the things that you do, or the way you handle things, or the way you deal with life, is because that's the way you have programmed yourself to be. So you need to be aware of the way you think and change them thought by thought, reaction by reaction. This is what my life practice is all about. And the more I reprogram myself, the more I'm led to different things, because I know whatever it is that I'm feeling is, whatever I am that I'm feeling that I want to do for my next step is the step that I need to take. Now, after having this leasing consultant job for a while, I knew I needed to get another job because I wasn't going to stay there very long. And I also had an active real estate license that I wanted to use. I started going to real estate brokers, and I was just thinking maybe I'm supposed to show houses. But being in a wheelchair, there were a lot of issues. You know, dealing with houses with stairs, or, you know, there's so many places that are inaccessible. I'd be limited, and I didn't want to have to deal with that. And then one day, while wasting time on Facebook, I got a random message from someone who had seen that I was a leasing consultant at this job that I was at. And so he was an apartment locator, and he was asking me if I could refer him people that needed help finding apartments. So I was like, apartment locator, huh? And I looked into it. And it's a job that you basically communicate with people through phone and email. And once in a while you might have to show somebody an apartment, but for the most part, I don't. And you need a real estate license to do it, so perfect, right? I called a bunch of locator companies, I got hired, I learned the game, and I did it, and I'm still doing it. I eventually finished my accounting program and started applying for jobs, but my entire being was like resisting this. Like, this was not the route I felt like I was supposed to live. I applied for jobs and I got interviews, but nobody ever called me back. And honestly, I really didn't want to do it at all. And I finally decided I wasn't going to, despite the financial security it might offer and other stuff involved. I just couldn't do it. I think my dad is still not happy about that. Sorry, Dad. Now, as I felt resistant to accounting, there was a part of me that was telling me to really try out comedy. And I would think to myself, like, really? I mean, in social situations, I'm hilarious. I meet new people all the time, and I'm always the only guy in a wheelchair, so I'm always throwing wheelchair jokes. That's how I roll. You know, let's roll out. I'm always saying things, and, you know, I'm getting laughs all the time. And so as I'm thinking of this, one day I went to a basketball game, and it was the Rockets playing the Mavericks. And I noticed one of my friends that was sitting in the next section over to me, you know, randomly, and he was hanging out with this comedian that I know, Paul Varghese, who I had seen perform before. I'd never met him, but I'd seen him perform before. And I was like, holy crap, I need to meet him. I spoke to him, we had a few drinks. I told him I was thinking about doing comedy, and he gave me his card and told me to hit him up, you know, whenever, and if I had any questions or whatever. This was like a huge sign for me. After that, I decided to take an improv class to kind of get out of my comfort zone and test myself. And if y'all are not familiar with improv has no script. You go up there, you know, the audience has suggestions and ideas for you to do, and on the spot, you got to come up with something. This class was 6 weeks. It was once a week for 6 weeks, and the last week was a showcase. And on the day of the showcase, I was freaking out. I was like, there's no way I can do this. I was like, I didn't know what I was supposed to do. But I went with it, and, you know, I surprised myself. There was this one scene, I was on stage by myself, and they wanted me to do a scene with a phone booth. So I was like, okay, and I roll up to this imaginary phone booth, and I open the door, and I'm going in, and I'm pushing, I'm like kind of struggling, but I push in, and I'm like, oh man. Grab the phone, I'm like, hello, 911? Yeah, I'm stuck in a phone booth. And I mean, it was good. It was awesome. From then I started writing material, going to open mic nights, and it was pretty much a hit every time. I started getting offered shows, and it kind of went on from there. And I think it was a few years ago, it was probably like 6 to 8 months after I started doing this, that same comedian I met at that basketball game, I opened for him at the comedy club. So to me, that all just kind of makes it meant to be. I just had my last show in June, and honestly, I feel like it was the end of my comedy career. as I'm taking my talents to now focus on inspirational speaking. Comedy has been great for me for a number of reasons, but I wasn't fulfilled anymore doing it. And I realized I really didn't need to do it anymore because of the way I was feeling. Now, I think this is important. I think we need to use this. Our feelings are our compass. And the idea is to follow our joy, always follow your excitement. I feel like there are clues to the path that you need to go on. And this process will always lead you to reach outside your comfort zone, which is going to impose fear and resistance on you. But this is the only way we grow in this life. We need to understand that fear and the obstacles that are placed in our life are meant to be overcome. It's just part of the process. We cannot get caught up and complacent with being in our comfort zone. We have to keep reaching and keep pushing to better ourselves to achieve greatness. And always remember that fear is just the limitations that you put on yourself about what you think is possible, right? It's comprised of two components, regret and worry. To regret means to fear something that's already happened. To worry means to fear something that may or may not happen in the future. So if you're not worrying the past or worrying about the future, you're living the moment. To live in the moment is to be free of fear. I don't have fear when I'm having fun, because I'm just thinking about the moment. When I'm having fun, I'm doing something I love. When I'm doing something I love, I'm happy. Hence, when I live in the moment, I am happy. Don't let fear stand in your way. Develop courage in your life to push through boundaries. I like to say that courage is my bitch. If I'm ever fearful or think that I can't do something, I got a bitch slap courage to come into play. we can do anything with courage. Cultivate it and use it. Push yourself. In addition, in order to live in the moment, in order to have courage, we have to have faith. Faith that everything in the past was meant to be. Faith that everything will be okay in the future. Faith that all these things that are happening to the benefit of in you, faith that all these things that are happening are for the benefit in you. Because faith is knowing that everything happening in your life is happening for you, not to you. A year ago, a lot of you probably know that I was dealing with pressure sores that were taking forever to heal. It was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to deal with. I dealt with it for 7 months, and most of the time I was just lying in bed, unable to do much because I couldn't put pressure on my wound. This whole time I kept reminding myself these things. It's okay. Stay in the moment. Everything is happening for you, not to you. I reminded myself every day. Now, it wasn't easy, and my parents will tell you that I wasn't easy to deal with during that time. It was hard. And it forced me, honestly, to deal with a lot of suppressed emotions that I had from the past. So during the process, I could see the purpose that this was happening. And I had to keep my patience in check. And I kept reminding myself that contrast in life is necessary. You need the so-called bad times to appreciate the good times. You need to experience sadness to know what happiness is. And I did this till the end of this period to the best of my ability. And one really big thing that came out of it was realizing that everything that I had been doing up until this point was great. However, I would not be truly fulfilled if I wasn't at least trying to walk again. I hadn't done therapy in probably 4 or 5 years. I had left that part of my life. But I couldn't move forward if I wasn't doing something about this. When I first got paralyzed, I had known about a facility called Project Walk, which is essentially like outside the box therapy. Insurance doesn't cover it, but these people get you into standing and walking patterns to help you remember how to do these things. You have trainers, they help you move your body, and as you try to integrate the movement with your mind. And the idea is that with persistence, you'll eventually be able to get the signal down to your extremities. I wanted to do it, and when I first got paralyzed, they were only in California. And when I looked them up again last year, I found that they were in Austin and Dallas. And I live in Houston, so I thought this could work out. I could go there maybe every couple months or something. It's expensive, but I had some money set aside. And when I moved back to Houston after my pressure sore fiasco, this was the next step I had in mind. Then, around February, I got an invitation to go to this Super Bowl party. And the invitation was from this spinal cord injury support group. And I saw on the bottom of this invitation that it said, Cindy something at projectwalk.com. And I was like, whoa, is Project Walk in Houston? And I looked it up, and and sure enough, they had just opened up in New Year's, and I had no idea. I met the people involved at the Super Bowl party, and I got things started, and I've been doing this therapy ever since. And I love it. I love that I'm doing something about my body, and I will always keep hope that I will one day walk again. This is my dream. And I don't care what anybody tells me. I don't care what doctors say. I don't care what statistics say. Because all that matters is what I think in here. All that matters is what I believe is possible. And I will not let anybody change my programming. It blows my mind knowing the story of how Project Walk came to be in Houston. Completely separate from my own intention, the owners of Project Walk started Project Walk because their son became a quadriplegic 2.5 years ago after a motocross accident. They had been attending other Project Walks in California and Dallas, and finally decided to open this up in Houston. This Houston location has now been open since January, and it's the second biggest Project Walk in the nation right now. It's amazing to me that this kid had to get paralyzed and go through his journey to eventually have Project Walk created 20 minutes from my house. As I was thinking, I want to do Project Walk. Life is amazing. We can never understand the intricacies of the forces that need to come together for things to happen. It's just amazing. About a week and a half ago, the Abilities Expo was happening again in Houston. And I was going there because Project Walk had a booth and I was helping work it. I was expecting to see the owners and their son, but I was told that they had an emergency that day. And later I found out that the owner's son, Brooks Dramley, died in his sleep. He was just a few days from turning 20 years old. It really affected me in knowing this, because he's the reason why I'm here doing this. Project Walk is his legacy now. And it just gives me so much more motivation that my dream is going to come true. Not just for me, but for Brooks and everybody that has to deal with this. Nothing is impossible. And I will continue to be patient, persistent, and positive till I make this happen. I will get walking or die trying. And nothing or nobody will get in the way of that. In closing, I hope this helps you go for your dreams wholeheartedly and create the life you want to live, because you can. In the words of Bob Marley, live the life you love the life you live. Thank you very much.
He's awesome for me, but is he awesome for you guys?
Oh, yes.
I want to kiss him too.
If anybody has any questions for Vic, we can do some Q&A. We have a few minutes.
I just have an awesome observation and comment to make. You were talking about how things in your life you were able to connect the dots, and I've reached that point, but I'm amazed at how his connected dots aren't just linear, they're interwoven. You've reached a new level. You've reached an entirely different level, and I hope to get there. I mean, because it's like you said in the end, the intricacies, you're enjoying that intricacy by how interwoven it is.
Yeah.
Blows my mind.
And he lives life when he's leaded. Like, whatever happens, he'll wait, and if something happens, he'll say, okay, not this, that. This is where I'm going, because this is where life is leading me. And yeah, he's taught us a lot. So we're learning from him, and we're changing our lives because what he has gone through. And the other day he told me, he said, I will not change anything that has happened in my life. Everything that has worked, it's perfect. Whatever I have gone through, it's perfect. Everything has just been the way it's supposed to for me to be in this level, and for our whole extended family to grow. So, any other questions? Go ahead. Or comments.
After the accident, I imagine there was a point of
depression. Normally, I'd imagine there would be. How long was that for you, and what took you? What was a stopping point for you to get out of that?
Well, honestly, for 3 years I was escaping it, right? For 3 years I was just like trying to like find anything else that I could, get out of this. And I was just trying to put my energy into that. And after that, when I really like kind of felt defeated about it, is when I really hit a point of depression. And that probably lasted like a year, or maybe close to a year, before I was just like, all right, I'm gonna get out of here and go from there.
Yeah, you're at the parents' house, right?
Right,
You're at the parents'
exactly.
house.
It's necessary.
So his 4th year, he left home and he went to Houston.
Yeah.
So first off, I just want to say you frankly were a total inspiration, and I'm really, really appreciative that you came out here to speak to us tonight. Secondly, I'm actually surprised you didn't talk more about the basketball.
I'm on a wheel. It's nationally recognized, so we go all over. We had our national tournament in April this past in Kentucky this past April, and we came in 4th place. So I mean, hopefully we take home the championship next year. But yeah, we're called the Houston Hot Wheels, for the record.
Anybody else? Tell them, Vic, how you spoke today.
What do you mean?
How did it happen?
How did it happen? Like on Monday?
Yeah.
Okay, on Monday I was showing my mom a video. I was showing my mom a Les Brown video, right? And he was just
Les Brown, yeah.
yeah. I thought it was awesome. He was just talking about like going for your dreams and like as it's not really about the dream, but it's all about everything you learn and what you gain in pursuit of the dream. And it just kind of spoke to me, and I showed my mom it. And my mom was like honestly, the video was like 10 minutes long, like 2.5 minutes in. She's like, "Oh my God, you're gonna speak on Wednesday." And I was like, I'm still like, wait for the video to end.
It was so powerful, and it was just, that's him, what Les Brown was saying. So I said, well, this is your message, you've got to speak, you're here. Okay, if there's